All right, Joel Gausten here from joelgausten.com. I'm really psyched to be joined on the phone by somebody I haven't had a conversation with that wasn't typed in about 28 years. Joining me from the beautiful state of Kentucky, Mr. Eerie Vaughn. Eerie, man, good to talk to you.
What's up, dude? It's good to talk to you too. Whenever I think of the '90s, I just go, that's like 30 years ago. So it puts a blanket 30 years.
Yeah, it's crazy how time flies, man. I can't believe it's 2024. It's
Well,
crazy.
that's what it does. I mean, when I think about every time somebody says that, where did the time go? I'm thinking about all the stuff that I was doing all this past 30 years, and yeah, there was a lot of times where I was like, when will this day be over? So people say life is short. Yeah, at the end it is, but while you're living it, it's plenty long. Especially if you're not, if you don't, you're living high on the hog. Then it's like, oh, my life is so short. If you're starving, it ain't.
Yeah, that's sure as shit, man. Well, let's talk about the here and now. But obviously, people know you best for being the original bass player for Danzig, as well as the original bass player for Samhain. But we're not going to talk about any of that, man, because I really want to talk about your new record, which is called Not for Nuthin. And first of all, man, congratulations. It's a beautiful fucking album.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah,
It's very nice of you to say. I'm sure the guitar player is the producer will be happy to hear that.
yeah, man. I love it and we'll definitely take a deep dive into it. But first of all, this is your first solo record in about 15 years. Do I have that right?
Yeah, pretty much.
And I guess the first and most obvious question is what accounted for that long of a gap between records?
Well, just like you said a minute ago, like, well, where does the time go? It just flies right by. Yeah, I didn't have wherever I was living, whatever the situation I was in, there either wasn't people to play with, there wasn't a place to record. Last time I did a record, I had a place that I lived at. I could set up a recording thing and just sit there and work on the songs all day long. So I didn't have it this time, and just the time was right, but it was like right before COVID. I think we were leaving because COVID just hit or something. It was like a week, the first week of like March, I think, whenever that was, a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And this friend of mine, says, hey, why don't we before you leave to go to Kentucky, why don't we lay down some tracks for that record of yours? I'm like, yeah, where we, how come we didn't do this like, a year ago or whatever? So it just wound up happening, and it was like everything just fell into place. So, and I'm pretty sure after all working on it and stuff, like the record, it's supposed to come out when it comes out. It takes as long as it takes. When you don't have a contract or you don't have to put out an album every 2 years or whatever, plenty of people take like 5 years to do a record. So it's done when it's done. Like if I was writing a book, it wouldn't be done until I get to the last page. So it just took forever because I needed to like live life, and the record would be completely different if I put it out like 10 years ago. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I hear you. I've been working on one book in particular for 20 years, so I get it completely.
yeah, that's the
Um,
way it is. The trick is, which I broke my cardinal rule, is that you never tell people what you're working on, and I've done it my whole life, and then this kept feeling like it was going to be out at any time. We're just about done, and people started saying, well, when's it going to be done? And it was like, oh, there's a setback here or a screw up there or whatever. So yeah, just you're not supposed to tell anybody, oh, I'm doing this and I'm doing that, because they'll just keep asking you when it's going to be done. So
yeah,
there's
totally.
no more nothing. I'm not telling you people anything.
Well,
No.
there's a lot of things about this album that I find very unique. Even not getting into the music part of it yet, but just the way you're marketing this thing. As you mentioned, you don't have a label. You do have Eerie Von Records.
Mm-hmm.
You put this thing out yourself. It's a CD only release, which means people have to PayPal you, and you mail the CD out yourself. You take care of the orders yourself. It's as old school of a record as I've seen in 15 years at least. Considering what's available online right now, oh, and we should mention as well, you do include a note with every CD asking people not to post the songs online or share them, which I think is awesome. All that said, considering that we have Bandcamp and iTunes and all that stuff, why keep it so old school when the rest of the planet seems to be doing it the complete opposite way?
Because that's the way, everybody that I listened to, my whole life, they all started out selling, records out of the trunk of their car or whatever. You know what I mean? It's just when you want it to be done the way you want it to be done. The less hands involved, the better. And then going to the whole punk rock thing, especially the hardcore scene. That's what everybody did. It's like, well, first of all, we'll start a band, and then like a couple months later, let's put out a record, and then let's go on tour. And that's just the way it is. And I still look at it that way. And there's no marketing. I know all about stuff. I've been doing this for like 40 years, so I know exactly what all that stuff does. But I've also been not getting paid for shit for all that time. So like the online stuff, I used to get 100 checks for, and it would wind up being like $100, maybe, if you were lucky. So I just stopped cashing them, and then all these places or accounts would go, we see that you haven't cashed any of those checks. I'm like, oh, I must have forgot. Just send me a new one with the whole amount. And, it's ridiculous. You can't make any money on downloads. Also, if somebody comes to see me, I can't sign a friggin' download.
Right.
I still lay out all the stuff. It's just more fun that way, and it gets done exactly the way you want it. So that's just the way it is. Record companies, you don't need them. Nobody needs them. So.
Right. I mean, I love it. I love the fact that I, had to reach out to you to get the record and you mailed it yourself. It's like back in the day, I grew up in Jersey. I know what the whole thing was about with the Fiend Club and what you and Glenn were doing back then. It's
Yeah.
such a nice callback to that era for sure.
Well, that's, we don't, I haven't really changed. I still think that way because it's on such a small scale. I mean, we never thought we would sell any records. And the, say cutting and pasting like a, couple thousand records at a time seemed like a lot then, doesn't seem like that much now. But, so, yeah, I know I'm not going to sell a million records, but it's my audience. Whoever wants it, that's just great. If they like it, great. If they don't, but I don't care. It's like there's no pressure. I just want to do another record. Get the songs out of my head, stuff like that. So there's definitely no pressure when you have a contract and investors and people who board of directors or whatever. That's when musicians go crazy. So.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And we should mention the music on this album, I guess, would be best described as country folk. I think that's a pretty fair assessment.
I don't know. Yeah, I wait for other people to tell me what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Because just like I tell people all along, it's just like, well, you write songs, you just write songs, and then all of a sudden you go, gee, I got a bunch of songs that sound like this. Why don't we record all these and put them on an album? Or it's never like, hey, I'm going to sit down and write a country song. I don't think I've ever done that. It's just like you start writing the words and you go, oh, that sounds like it could be a country song, and then you pick up the guitar, and it's like, yeah, that's a country song. But then you play it like 5 different ways, and then you just say, well, let's just play it. Let's do the rock and roll version, or let's do this version or that version, whichever one's more fun.
And one thing I really love about the album is just how it sounds. It really comes off like you're sitting in my living room playing. It doesn't sound Pro Tool to death. It's got a really great, natural, organic sound to it. especially with your singing voice, which comes off just very pure, and what it is what it is, and I really appreciate that. Tell me a bit about the production of this record. You mentioned Eric Martin, who worked with you on it. What did he bring to the overall picture? And as far as the sound itself, did you have a plan to kind of just have it sound this way as opposed to worrying about, pro tooling every single note along the way?
Well, it's like when you record, like, since, let me think how long. First record was like 17, 18, and we recorded reel to reel in somebody's garage. So every record after that has been, on tape and done like the old-fashioned way because that's the only way we knew how. And then eventually, I got some experience with Pro Tools and things like that, sitting in on sessions or whatever. And you go, oh, you mean you could do that? Oh, that's pretty cool. But once you get to know what you want and what you don't want, then you have to use it like a real tool, like use it in the right way. So, like if you fix a part, or you can fix one note, and the bass player's not here, then you just say, yeah, just fix that note. But for the most part, I still record stuff like in my mind. I'm putting it on tape, so I'm still thinking about the limitations of tape and how many tracks and stuff. I never think, oh, we got a million tracks. Yeah, but you got a million tracks. How are you going to find the right one? Let's just get the one we think is perfect right then. Let's use that one. Whatever. If you're doing a guitar part or something. But I still like to sit in the room with whoever's going to play and say, okay, this is how the song goes, and just start playing it. And then once you get it, just that feels pretty good. Then you just roll tape, which is what I still say. Okay, let's put it on. Let's put it on wax. We used to say that too. So Eric and Gabe had the whole computer thing going on, and I was just like, okay, I don't really care about any of this. Just when I want to record something, I'll say, give me a track, and label it this, and we're gonna try this or whatever, and then just keep doing it like that. And meanwhile, they'd be like, talking and fixing things, doing all kinds of stuff that I don't even know what they're doing, and I don't really care. It's like, and every time it's like, no, well, we could do this, we could do that, and I'm like, no, we'll just go play it again, or there's a guitar lead, or it's a specific, guitar pattern or something that's very important to the song. It's like, well, that has to be done right, so I'm going to overdub it. So we put it on, go like, it just doesn't feel right. So do it 20, 30 times. By the time you get to the 30th time, you go like, you know what? That's perfect right there. But it could happen in 6 tries, So rather than just do it once and then just kind of cut and paste it wherever you want it to go, it's better to have the whole thing, because it's more of a performance. I sang all the vocals all the way through, and if I screwed up, I would be like, yeah, punch me in at that last line or whatever. But we didn't patch anything together. Everybody plays on this thing. There's no, somebody picked up Eric picked up the like one of those xylophones that in the marching band.
Mm-hmm.
And I like vibes, which is like the whole thing, like Lionel Hampton and Motown has these guys that always play what they call vibes. I don't know what you call them exactly, but it's still point they used to. So we're just running down the song, maybe doing like a board mix, and or trying to find a part. And all of a sudden I hear this little sort of marching pin kind of thing going ding ding in the background in the other room, and I'm like, what is that? And it just keeps going on. He's listening to the song as it's playing back in the other room, and he's just playing around because there's one of those things there. And I go, oh, now we have to use that because it fit in, and it was really not something you would expect. But if you put it in the right place, it'll just be there, but it won't take over. And part of it is like, yeah, oh, that's so cheesy. We have to use that, So it was very hands-on. Everything was real organic. There was always somebody
Excellent. I know you're out in Kentucky these days. Do you perform live these days as well, or is that a plan you have for the future?
No, I don't care. I mean, I lived in Nashville almost 10 years. Played maybe once,
Hmm.
a couple of times. I can't remember. I was drinking a lot then. But no, I don't care about playing. I was like, once you play in front of like a couple 100,000 people, it's just, I don't really care to do it anymore. Maybe in a club, like, with just friends or sitting around at somebody's house or whatever. But I don't really have a big need or want to go out and do that stuff. Plus, I don't walk so good anymore. My back's still fucked up. It wouldn't be too much. If I could sit down and do it, it'd be okay.
Mm.
You know.
Mm.
But yeah. I mean, I'll probably wind up doing some shows with Eric and Gabe and whoever else wants to sit in, or just get up and do something if we feel like it. But I don't really, I don't really want to. I want to make records. I do like making records. So if I can do that, and if I pay for the pressing and stuff, the hell, I'll just do that. I don't care if somebody buys it. But I do like making like records. Like these guys are a little bit younger than me. They're like, it's so cool to have like a finished product you can hold in your hand after all this work we put in. And I said, yeah, it's like it's not the same as somebody can they whip out a song in one day and they put it on their website or whatever. I'm like, yeah, that's great. I think that's a great way to do it because it helps get the stuff out of your head. But it's great to have like a project and then see it all the way through and then have the finished product and you go, hey, look, Ma, here's my new record.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to give a plug to the other people who play on the record. We mentioned Eric Martin. Gabe is Gabe Cantrell. He plays bass, piano, drums. Mitch Jones.
Everybody played whatever they wanted to play. Like if you were there and you're like, oh, I'm going to play the bass on this, it's like, okay. I got a guitar part for this. Okay.
Excellent. We also have Mitch Jones, Justin Clark, Steele Neil Jones, and Luella on backing vocals, and she's fantastic.
Yeah, they just kind of wing that. We were at the mixing, and she's in a band with Joe McCann, who mixed it. And they were just like, well, do you think, we can use her on anything? And Eric said, yeah, I got an idea. I think we'll try it on this or whatever. I'm like, okay, sure. So we came up with it. It was like, yeah, if it doesn't work, we don't use it. And then even after it was done, it was up to Joe to say, well, I'm like, dude, you know what I want with this, right? You know where it's got to be. It can't be too much. It can't be too little. It's got to be just exactly right, and it's got to sound like, whatever I was telling him or whatever. But he had an idea in his head too. So just go like, yep. And then you sit there and go, yeah, that's it. That sounds good. We'll leave it in.
Cool. I wanted to take you back to when you kind of started doing things under your own steam after Danzig. I know I saw you play, it had to have been 96, and at that time you were doing a blues band out in Jersey called Bighouse, which I really loved. I think I saw you at Obsessions, of all places, in Randolph back then. And I know that was with Rick from Zounds on guitar.
Yeah.
Really cool. I'm sorry?
Ricky's still playing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I talk to him all the time. We're still in touch.
That's great.
That was when I moved back to Jersey, I was just like, I wanted to, like, I don't know, I was writing more songs, so I wanted to really work on it, like, like just to have somebody I could bounce ideas off of, and somebody like Rick's about 10 years older than me, so I'm like, I've already got his Rolodex, of all the music he's ever listened to. So, like, something will just pop out, and I'll say, what is that? And he goes, oh, it's just something this one band did like 20 years
Yeah, yeah, I really dug that band. I was really happy to see that that incarnation. I thought you guys were fucking smoking. So
Yeah, it would have kept going, but it was something I definitely would like to have a, like a big band like that, like a, like a Tedeschi Trucks band or Allman Brothers type band where it's a whole bunch of people playing. But that's, you know, that would have been great in my 20s, you
right.
know. So I just want to make records that kind of remind me of that stuff. And, things that I like. There was a great Allman Brothers moment on the record where, I was just like, that one little thing right there. I need a harmony. I just need two notes of harmony right there. And they were like, where? I'm like, right there. And so Jay picked up a guitar and he went, mean this? I said, that's it. Okay, good. And I walked out of the room. It was great. I love moments like that. And there was a lot of them. You know.
Cool. Sticking with 86, sorry, 96, for a minute too. That was when you put out your first solo record, called Uneasy Listening. And that was done with Mike Morance. And I wanted to bring up Mike because, sadly, we lost Mike recently. And for those listeners who don't know Mike Morance, he was a old school New Jersey musician. He was in the band Active Ingredients with Fran Shea from the Misfits and Eddie Enzyme. He also recorded some solo music under the name Ashley Morance. His brother Chris plays in Morning Noise. And I always found Mike kind of interesting because I always loved the stuff that he did. And, that single he put out in 82 under the name Ashley Morance, the Over the Wall single, I mean, that was like Sisters of Mercy level stuff. And he was doing that in Jersey. But my impression of Mike was he wasn't somebody who was actively seeking the spotlight. There's a lot of people in that sort of greater Jersey horror punk world who honestly don't know when to shut the fuck up, but Mike wasn't really out there kind of pushing himself publicly. That was the impression I got. So he kind of held that mystery. So I was hoping you can kind of fill in the blanks a little bit, and tell me a bit about Mike Morance and how you got to know him, and ultimately how the two of you came together to do that Uneasy Listening record.
Yeah, you're pretty right. But I'm on Mike. He was hard to read, but I get the impression that I don't think anybody really knew him because I think he presented a certain, like, this is as far as you need to know about me, and that's all. Because we'd find out stuff. He had like a whole other life we didn't know about. Like, he was going other places that we weren't going, and he knew other people. He just like had this whole other thing. And then he wound up teaching like rock school in Jersey. That's like a whole other thing you wouldn't expect. So, yeah, he was like, I told him, I said, that Paul Simon record, like a rock, or I am a rock, I'm an island. I said, that's you. He goes, I like that. He says, yeah, I'm an island. He wound up working at Down Studio where we rehearsed. Danzig rehearsed the whole first album there, and Mike started working there, and I was hanging around afterwards when I came back to work on other songs and stuff. And I told him, I said, I got a record I want to put out, and I know what I want to do, and I got all ideas and all concepts and all stuff. I said, I think I can get a record deal from Caroline. I said, if I can get a deal, you want to go in the studio and record something with me? And we were just friends and stuff. And I asked him a few things, and I'd been to his house and stuff, so we were like good friends. And I asked him about this, that, and the other thing, and he goes, I don't need to go out and prove it. I know I can do it. He was always experimenting in his basement, always coming up with new things. He would come up and tell me what this word means backwards, or it sounds like backwards, So he's always doing something. So I told him I'd give him total freedom. I said, you must have like $1 million came up with about eight or nine songs, and then put it out, and the Caroline loved it. They thought it was great. Like, yeah, nobody's gonna buy it, but so it was good. It was fun, and he liked it because I said whatever I get, I'm giving you half. So I got an advance. I gave him half the money, and he goes, I can't believe you just gave me half the money. I was like, well, you did half the work, So it was definitely a thing. It was just like, let's go in and see what happens. But like I had a concept, a storyline in my head, so I kind of knew I could direct what was going to happen. And that was really fun, like really mixing and really producing and trying to, make things flow and how people might hear it in the theater or on your headphones, things like that. Trying to make like a real interesting record. It was good. It's fun to learn stuff. So
Yeah.
that was really cool. And he was real happy with it. And I'm going to put out a compilation, I hope, after I pay, get the money back from this record, of all the spooky stuff. It's all out of print. And I found a song that Mike and I did that we didn't use. It's called Fright Makes Right. And I was like, oh, I'm going to use that. It'd be nice since, Mike remembered the song, but, it would be a nice nod to him to put on that.
That's awesome. Yeah, looking forward to hearing that. And you're absolutely right. I've always heard that album as a movie soundtrack. You're absolutely right. And it's such a cool, I grew up in Jersey around the whole thing, the Chiller Theater. I mean, it's got such a classic vibe. It's perfect for that kind of aesthetic. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I always like that stuff. One of the guys I listen to the most is Fetus, J.G. Thurwell. He does
Mm-hmm.
soundtrack stuff, does cartoon stuff, kind of like Mark Mothersbaugh from Devo, kind of does a little bit of everything. But when he puts out albums, well, he used to. I don't know what he's done since, but he has different incarnations of himself. He plays sort of a different character, so all the records have that different flavor. And he did a lot of instrumental stuff, and it was really, really intense, and a lot of big orchestra stuff, and killer rhythmic drum stuff. That's just like used to make me go nuts, and just like you'd be driving, all of a sudden you're going 100, and you're like, oh, I got to shut the Fetus off, But so I really like that stuff. And Glenn did Black Aria,
Mm-hmm.
So we that's one of the things we had in common was we loved soundtrack stuff, and I like the more spooky, campy kind of stuff, but he liked the big Conan the Barbarian kind of stuff.
Right.
So that was it. But he still loved classical music, listened to it all the time. Let's do it in Rosemary's Baby. The singer, JR, he's really heavy into classical, and he turned me on to a lot of great pieces. And I still listen to stuff. It's so cool to put on, like, Bach or something and just roll up the windows, and just the world looks really different when you're listening to that stuff. It's like a real soundtrack. And you're going, oh, things aren't really as bad as they seem.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the record's still relatively new. We're about halfway through the year at this point. What does the rest of your 2024 look like in terms of music or any other activities?
Yeah, well, I want to put that compilation out, so I'll be working on that. But I've already got it all laid out in my head, so that won't take time at all. I don't know. People always want me to do some convention stuff. Around Halloween, there's always a lot of phone calls or inquiries about, can you come here? Can you do this? I was like, So if anything's close enough, I'll probably do it. But and just the last book's supposed to be back in on the shelves or in the stores right now. Anyway, so that's something that I can start selling books again. And other than that, I want to start working on the number 7. I didn't know if I'd ever get to do number 6. That's what this one's, Not For Nothing, number 6.
Yeah.
Because the reason it's called Not For Nothing is because Not For Nothing could be my last record. That's why it's called that. And everybody in Jersey said Not For Nothing. Ricky Soundman had fun. He's saying, "You got a good title, bro." You guys, I completely agree. you know. But yeah, well, that's probably what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to at least go down there and demo like an album's worth of songs, and then work on them, you know, back and forth. You know, try to put out another record. Why not?
Yeah, absolutely. If you got the people, you got the ability to do it. Shit.
Plus it'd be the third one that's like kind of country. So maybe after that, maybe I won't do country songs. But I don't know. But I mean, to me, it's not really country. It couldn't possibly be country. If you hear what's on country radio, it's nothing like that. You know. So I don't know. But I like numbers, and three's always been good when it comes to the band and stuff. Always seemed like third record was always something special. I don't know. Have to see what happens. But that, yeah, that's what I'll be doing. That and like, you know, painting and you know, occasionally doing like podcasts and things like that.
Excellent. And you did mention the book, and I wanted to let the listener know, if they don't already, you put out a book a few years back called Misery Obscura, and it's a bunch of your photos from the old Misfits, early Samhain days. Um, Excellent collection. You know, there's a lot of classic images in that. So I would definitely encourage people to keep an eye on that. You know, the news about the next printing, and definitely check that out if you're into that whole era, which obviously a lot of people are. That kind of leads me to my last question for the moment. In that, you know, you mentioned you've been doing this a long time. You know, you had Rosemary's Babies. Initium is 40 years old this year, the first Sam Hain record. You've got this new album out. What keeps you in the game? You know, what does doing this still give you that you can't find doing something else in life?
Oh, I could, you know, I mean, I paint every day, so I could probably just one day just not pick up the guitar or whatever, or not, you know, write stuff. But since that's what I've been doing for so long, like even before that, like when you're in seventh, eighth grade, you start developing like a personality and like a view of life and things, and some people write that stuff down. So I started doing it then, so it's kind of like would always be there. So the only reason I still maybe would put out like a physical copy of something is just because of the time, and maybe it's the right thing to do. But I feel like Mike got a lot of those things. It's like, yeah, I don't need to prove anything except to myself, you know. So when it comes to the record, this past one, it's like I really like it. I never really listened to any of the records. After you're done, you kind of go like, I'm sick of this shit, and you never listen to it again. This one I kept listening to, and we got it mixed. I was like, listen to the mix. Then you got to like figure out if the mix is good, you know, where to put the songs. Then you get the mastering. You know, like now you listen to mastering for a month, you know. And Eric was the same way. He was just like, I really like this record, you know. So that's good enough for me right there. You know, the people involved like it. Everybody had a nice time, and it was like, yeah, that's good. Let's do it again sometime. It's nothing like making a record with people. You know, it's great. So that I'll probably always do it. You know, if nobody hears you, who cares? You know, I don't really. You know, it's like, yeah, I wrote a new song. Well, whatever. Put it on tape and put it on the shelf or whatever. It's kind of like it's good to get them out of your head, but it's even better when it's like, yeah, I've got 100 songs at home, but if nobody hears them, then they're just gonna sit there. So gotta put them out once in a while. You know?
Yeah.
Otherwise, what are you doing? I mean, you know, Prince did like he has like 10,000 songs in his vault. He's like, yeah, they're not good enough or whatever. But then we're never gonna hear them. Well, yeah, that's all well and good, but they'll be putting out Prince records for the next 100 years. You know. But, yeah, I just still like it. I still got something to say, I guess. But that's probably what it is. You know.
Right on. And like I said, you know, throughout this conversation already, you know, people can contact you directly to get the record. It's I think it's what, $16 postage paid in the U.S. through PayPal. Um,
Yeah, that's it.
and your email address is eerievon777 at gmail.com. You can reach out to Eerie directly. And I gotta tell you, man, I've always appreciated the fact that in all the years I've known you, you've always been accessible. You write people back. You're always in the mix. You know, it reminds me a lot of back in the day. Again, growing up as a Jersey kid, you know, writing certain people from the old scene and getting letters back, you know, or
Right.
mailing a record and getting like a cool package from the band with drawings and stickers and all that shit. So thank you for keeping that spirit alive. It's really fucking refreshing in 2024. I love the fact that we're not even doing a video interview right now. I appreciate that too. It's as old school as it can be, man, and I'm loving every second of it. So, thanks for doing what you do, Eerie. It's always great talking to you. All the best, and I look forward to next time.
Cool. I appreciate you, taking the time to ask me about it. You know, I'm glad you like it. You know, it's great. Everybody likes to hear, "Oh, you did good." You know, so that's nice.
Yeah, man, I really do love it. It's definitely going to be in my top 10 of the year. Again, the album is called Not for Nothing. Check out Eerie's stuff, and you'll get your head blown off. It's great stuff. Excellent, man. Eerie, always a pleasure, my friend.